All right, so welcome. Today I want to talk to you about my best board games and books of 2024. Now, the first thing you might find yourself asking is, what the bloody hell does this have to do with LinkedIn? I think you're probably right. This is probably more for my YouTube audience. Hey, you guys, all three of you. But I read the other day that somebody said that LinkedIn is like OnlyFans, but for mid-level managers. And I am going to war with that idea. I love it over here. So I want to make sure that I created some content that maybe felt like non-mid-level manager worthy. I call this my best books and board games of 2024, but of course, there's a couple of caveats to that, in that I've not played or read all the books and board games that came out in 2024.
Is that even possible?
And second of all, when I say best, I obviously in Legicide I talk about the difference between best versus favorite and why I think favorite is better, but in this case, best books, board games, it alliterated better, and alliteration trumps everything. So why top 6? Because I just could not get it down to a top 5. In the board games, this is new to me games. So there's a few games that came out in 2023, but I only played them in 2024, so you know, whatever, it's my video.
Sassy Smurf!
Let me give you the year by the numbers just to get you started. All right, so let's start with the books. In last year, I read 62 books. 32 of those were fiction, 9 were biographies and memoirs, 4 were business books, and the rest was a kind of mix of self-help, philosophy, that kind of stuff, reference books, etc. 22 were audible. The majority were written on my read on my Kindle, 39, and only one book was physical. This was a physical book. I read it on the toilet. That's why it's a physical book. And don't shake your head at me and judge. You take your phone to the toilet. You put that shit by your ear, bro. So okay, don't judge. But anyway, this was the only book I read on the toilet. This absolutely did not make it onto my top list, but away you go. All right, and then in board games, I played 71 new to me games in 2024, and so I've drawn those from that. Okay, I want to start off the list with a series of honorable mentions. From the books category, the one honorable mention was actually a series. The Seven Sisters books, definitely, I don't think I was a target audience, but I love historical fiction. I absolutely love the books. I love the whole series, although I did not love the last book. I didn't like the way it finished up. Not because of the way that the son wrote the book, more to do with the character himself. You can read my Goodreads review on that. But I read 5 of the 8 books in 2024, so I thought it was worth mentioning them as a category. I thought they were very worthwhile, and if it's not a genre you normally read, or you don't think the books are for you, definitely start with book number 1 in the series and see how you do. I thought it was pretty excellent. All right, so honorable mentions for the board game category. The first I'd like to mention is a game called Robo Trick. It's a 3-player only trick-taking game. It actually has an AI that's in it that is really, really amazing, an incredible game. If you do not know what trick-taking is, you definitely do not want to start with this one. It's really complex, but it's amazing. I can't wait to play it again. I only played it once at Spiel, and so that's why I've not listed it in my favorites. The second was Flatiron. It's a 1-player or 2-player game. We're going to hear from the designers again later on. I've just not played enough, only once at each player count, and I definitely want to play it more before I decide, but I really have enjoyed both my first plays. This is accessible. If you're looking for a cool 2-player game for a couple, I'll definitely consider this. The next is a game called Ironwood, also a 2-player head-to-head fighting asymmetric game. Certainly not one for people new to board gaming, but I really did enjoy my first play with my son. Looking forward to playing it again. The next one's a game called Flip Circus, a very, very small, light little game that you could carry anywhere. It's a 2-player only game. You could play this with your spouse or your partner in a coffee shop. My wife and I take it with us when we go to coffee shops. We played it quite a lot and we really, really enjoy it. The next one's called Fairy, and that's a party game. I think it plays up to like 12 people if I'm not mistaken. You hold one card in your hand. It's so simple. All you do is you flip a card and then you've got to decide whether you think the next one will be higher, lower, the same suit, or a fairy. And everyone does that, and then they mark the score in the cards. It gets loud and raucous. It's a good time had by everybody. So definitely one to check out if you get a chance. And then the last one, I played it very briefly once in 2023, but I played it 20 times in 2024. So if I was to put one in the top list, this would certainly have made it, but it just kind of fell through almost on a technicality. But the game is called Trio. It's a wonderful game. I could almost teach you it like in seconds. It's good for any family. It's a great family game. And if you're looking for one to take on holiday with you or to just to break out at a family games night, this one will be a good time for everybody. Definitely check it out. Okay, coming in at number 6, starting off with the book. This one I did as an audiobook. It is called Who is Michael Ovitz? I don't know. Do you know who Michael Ovitz is?
No idea.
This is the autobiography of the founder of CAA, Creative Arts of Agency. It's full of these super cool like business war stories and things, but it also talks a lot about films and you know, a lot of the cinema that was around when I was young and growing up, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought there were some really smart lessons, based on the good things and the mistakes that he made, and I just thought it was absolutely wonderful. I did the audiobook, and he did an intro, and then he handed over to a professional narrator. I thought it worked really well, and would highly recommend it. And number 6 in the games category is this little bad boy called Rubber, Paper, Scissors. Now, I want you to imagine what would happen if Noughts and Crosses and rock, paper, scissors met in a bar. This is what it is. It gives you some wonderful, like, oh, moments in it. We played it quite a bit at Spiel at Essen, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've not played it much since I got home. I don't know why. I'm dying to play it. I think I'm gonna try to play it tonight. So that is my number 6, Rubber, Paper, Scissors. It is a terrible name. I don't know where the rubber comes from. But anyway, number 5. And number 5 in books, we've got another audiobook. It's called Anyone, Not Everyone. This is one of the 4 business books I read last year. It's really brilliant. It's by a guy called Corey Quinn. It talks about the idea that you can sell to anyone, but you can't sell to everyone. So it's basically a book about niching and about the power of niching. This is something we really push the speakers on our Storage Stage speaking program. Have you? Will you? Are you ready? And it's something I really feel very strongly about. But it was such a punch in the face to me for my own companies, Missing Link and Too Many Robots. And it really gave me pause to sit and think about how can I really dial this in. It's a short book, which I love. It was like 3.5 hours audiobook. And that means I can listen to it again. And I think there's huge value in that. Definitely think entrepreneurs should listen to this. Anyone, Not Everyone by Corey Quinn. Okay, then my number 5 board game. It's a game called Nar. All right, so Nar is a 2 to 4 player set collection card game.
Try saying that 10 times fast.
It's got a Viking theme. What you're trying to do is you're trying to collect these cool little sets of cards here and have them in front of you, and then use those sets of cards in order to go and buy these things up here. Where the tension comes in and what is wonderful about this game, as you collect these and draft these cards here into your hand here, they become more powerful or better. They give you a better payout as you draft them. But you need to spend these sets sometimes to buy these big cards up here. So you've got this tension. Do I want to keep the cards? How long do I want to keep them before I go and buy these big cards up there? It's over in like 30 minutes, honestly. Yep, 30 minutes. It's super fun, easy to teach. This is accessible for anybody. It's got a lovely theme, beautiful cards. They're nice size and everything. So that's my number 5 board game. Nar. All right, coming in number 4. In the book category, it is this, Finding Endurance by Daniel Bristow Bovey. Wow. My Goodreads review, I wrote the following. What a great book to be the first out the gates in the new year. Yeah, this was the first book I read in 2024. This book has changed what it means to me to be a leader. It has changed what it means to me to be an author. And it has changed what it means to me to be a storyteller. Just brilliant. This is really brilliant. The Endurance was Ernest Shackleton's ship, and it talks about it, you know, when it got caught in Antarctica, and it's just, I don't even say anything. It is absolutely wonderful, brilliant reading, and just all of those things, incredible storytelling. Definitely check it out. My number 4 game is a really small one. It's a little card game called Odin. So also Odin, also a Odin. Also a little small card game or pirate themed game. It's really simple. So you got these kind of pirate cards. There's absolutely no reason for the theme, by the way. They write some reason as to why they just arbitrarily did it. This is a shedding game where everybody have a set of cards in their hand, and the idea is to get rid of all your cards. It's very simple. You'll take one of the 6 suits of games. They're all just basically different colors, and they have a number from 1 to 9. And all you got to do is you got to basically, I can literally, by the way, teach this game while I'm playing it. I literally deal out the cards to everyone and say, okay, I'm going to teach you the game as we start playing it. I will play one card from 1 to 9. So let's say I play this green number 3, and then another person can play another card, either a single card higher than this, or they can play a card that it becomes higher with by turning it into a tens and a units. So, 53, which is bigger than 3. And then when they play that, they've got to take one of the previous cards. So now 53 is on the table. The next person can play, 54 or up to 99, or they can play 853. The only difference is if they can also play, they have to all be of the same suit, so the same color, or they can play of all the same number. And this sounds even a little bit complicated when I'm explaining it, but I promise promise you, when I play it and then you understand it, you play a card, you take one card back and you got to try to build these sets. It takes one hand and then you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. And then you play on, you play to a certain point score. Really rad. Everybody I've played this with loves it. That is my number 4. All right, so here we are in the top 3. That is the worst hand movement to do, to throw your hands out in ever. Like, I don't know what to do. Drew, just put a block over 4.
Okie dokie.
3. Okay, number 3. Let's start with the book. Now, this really is an oldie. Shogun. Shogun by James Clavell. Again, I love historical fiction. So let me tell you the story behind this one. I started watching the TV show. I may have fancied the lady in it a little bit. I was like, whoa, but I loved the show. So I watched an episode and a half. I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to stop and read the book. I don't know if any of you have ever done that before. But I was like, no, I have to read the book because I'm going to want to read the book. And I hate reading the book second. Anyway, so I go and I get the book and I start reading the book and I'm like, oh, it's so good. And then I would read ahead until I got to the point where I felt like I'd caught up with the episode. So I'd passed the episode, then I'd watch the episode. But to make it even better, if you haven't yet watched the series, as soon as I watched the episode, I downloaded the official FX, I think it was, podcast of each episode of the show. So I read the original book, then I watched the episode, and then I listened to the podcast talking about what they took from the book, how they did it, how they created the show. Absolutely incredible. This was like a full multimedia experience. If they come out with a board game of it, I am all in. Board game designers, I'm talking to you. All right, so Shogun, wonderful book. I highly recommend that you read the whole book. It gets a little bit long at times, but chef's kiss. Okay, I didn't even talk to you about what the book's about. Whatever, you figure it out, read the back of the book. In board games, Castle Combo. Okay, so this is like a little tableau building game. It's super, super easy. You got 2 rows of cards, one of like knights or in the castle, one is citizens. And every round you got to buy one of these cards and you got to build it into a 3x3 grid. So at the end of it, you have a 3x3 grid of these cards and then you score it. So you literally buy 9 cards, all of you at the table, super quick, and then you score the cards. And it might be, I get a point if a card like this is above this one, or I get a card, if this row has this many things in it. It's just like this super, super, super simple game. I could teach it to you in, again, minutes. It's 2 to 5 players. It takes 20 to 30 minutes. It's over, but there is some really meaty decisions that you have to make. You're like, oh, should I buy this? There's a lovely little economy that's in play. There are also conscious points at the end of the game. Every time I played this game, it feels different, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So my number 3, Drew, you know what to do. Board game of the year is Castle Combo. Wow, we're at number 2. Number 2. Okay, so number 2 is an audiobook again. I read it over Christmas with my wife. We were traveling across to North Wales. It's in the winter here. We were going across on a ferry and it was amazing. We left on our holiday and I pressed play on the book as I was driving out. And literally when we were driving back home at the end of the holiday, I said to her, can we go a little bit slowly? Because we basically finished the book about like a minute before we entered home again. So this was the book of our holiday, which was amazing, but it was also fitting. The book is called How to Winter by Carrie Leibowitz. It was amazing. Now, the funny thing is, the person who recommended this book to me also recommended my number 1 book to me. So Neil, big shout out to you. Now you know what the number 1 book is. Before moving to the Isle of Man, Neil had recommended that I read an article by Carrie Leibowitz that spoke about this idea of hygge and how to winter and how to get the mindset right. This idea that winter is to be enjoyed, not endured. And that had been our mindset when we moved here. And I must say, it's amazing because winter has been really, really wonderful. I mean, it's winter here. I'm in my t-shirt and we've had way more beautiful blue sky days than we've had miserable days. I mean, I could honestly count the miserable days maybe in like a hand, certainly 2 hands, the whole of winter so far. But it's about this idea that so many people write off winter as being a shit time. It's like something, oh, it's winter, it's horrible. And it's just a mindset. I have loved winter here. And it's not because I don't mind the cold. In fact, I quite enjoy the cold, but it's more because I love the coziness. I love the lighting of the candles. I love that hygge feeling. We buy from Marks and Spencer's. They have a shortbread tea that we have over winter that's so nice at night, and you put a little bit of honey and oat milk and you have this amazing delicious drink. And there's certain things like that and rituals you do, but there's so much more. And the idea that people write off an entire season is a crime. So if you're a person who doesn't enjoy winter, I think what you might find is just you are a mindset shift away from changing that. I highly recommend this book to you as one to just go through. And I loved that she read it herself. There's a lot of her personal stories. Highly recommend How to Winter by Carrie Leibowitz. All right, number 2 board game. Hold on a second. Not joking when I tell you this game, Foundations of Rome, it is massive, massive, massive. Let's see if you can see what's going on over there. All right, so what you've got, and Drew's going to bring out other people's pictures so you can see it. But what... I'm going to get this out of the way of the microphone. Foundations of Rome is a 1 to 5 player game that will take you under an hour. Honestly, maybe an hour the first time you're playing. It is so simple. It looks huge. It's massive, but it's super easy. It is a wonderful, wonderful game. Basically, all you're trying to do is everyone has this big tray, and you can see in the picture here, they've got this big tray of their own with these lovely pieces. And then what you just do is you buy these lots on the board, and kind of like Tetris, you basically put your pieces on the board, and you build the city of Rome. And at the end, you score it. The design of the game that I've got here is absolutely incredible because you can just check your scoring by looking at the board itself. They put so much thought into it. It's an amazing game. This is my gateway game for people who come to visit and want to play a board game for the first time because it's super impressive, but it's very, very, very easy. Okay, now if you don't want to invest like a kidney in buying one single board game that weighs like 10 kilograms, then you can buy another version that they've just made called Foundations of Metropolis. It's basically the same game in a much easier form factor. This is the family game you're looking for. What does it say? Ages 14 plus? I definitely think you could go a little bit younger than that, but a really, really, really good game. Foundations of Rome is my number 2. All right, so here we are, the best, my favorite, board game and book of 2024. And if you like this series, let me know if you want me to do something like the books that I'm excited to read in 2025 and the board games I'm excited to play in 2025. And let me know and I'll consider making that. Again, I know this is not my usual content, but I thought it'd be fun and it's nice for you to understand a little bit about what lights my fire. So let's start with my number 1. Did I say number 5? My number 1 book of the year. Now, again, this was not a book from last year, but it was a book I read last year. And when I finished it, I knew straight away, oh, this is number 1. This book is called Educated by Tara Westover. And I know a lot of you are like, oh, how are you only getting to this now? Wow, wow, wow. This book is so good. This is about a young lady who grew up in a very religious family that had all these rules and she wasn't allowed to get educated. It's a true story. And in fact, apparently there's some big controversy and other family members have spoken up and maybe there's a bit of gaslighting going on. Was she the one who was gaslit? Were they the ones who were gaslit? Who knows? But this is all part of the joy of it. It is an incredible book. She is a memoirist. She likes to write about memories. She describes it in the book. It's incredible. This one I actually did in a combination of reading, but then I was so enjoying it that I got the audiobook version as well. I used that whisper sync thing. So when I was driving, I was listening, and when I was reading, I was reading. If you do like audiobooks, highly recommend it. The narrator was incredible. I can't remember if it is Tara. I don't think it is, but it could be. It was a really, really brilliant book. Such a wonderful memoir. And if you enjoy that kind of thing, I would recommend that to you. Now, the number 1 board game. Okay, this game came out in 2023. Earlier on, I mentioned Flatiron, based on the Flatiron building. This was the kind of big hit by the same designers that came out the year before. It is called The White Castle. It takes place in feudal Japan. You're kind of in the Edo era. You're trying to get to the daimyo and you're one of the smaller clans and you're trying to raise your family's honor and get your people inside their court. And you do that either through military, you do that through courtiers, or you do that through agriculture. There's this incredible, incredible little tension in this game about where you put things. You roll dice at the beginning. These are the pieces that you can place. It's like essentially like a worker placement game where you put something on the board, then you activate that aspect of the board. I do think this is a very accessible game. I think that it does take a little bit of thinking, but you could watch a how-to video online. I will only ever play this game at 2 players. Myself and my friend Matteo, we played it at 2 players. We were like one and done in under an hour. Now we added my friend Jacques into the mix, and then the game took 2.5 hours. Now this wasn't about Jacques. This is because one of the things when you're playing a 2-player game, you can only go to each place once. But when you play at 3 players, you can actually go, everyone can go to almost everything. And so this adds the choices, basically the board doesn't shrink in choices as the game goes on. It just becomes, more choices later, and they matter more. Whereas in the 2-player game, and possibly the 4-player actually, but I would only play this at 2. In the 2-player game, as the choices start meaning more, there are less choices you can make. So the decision paralysis isn't so much, but the decisions are delicious. They are wonderful. I cannot recommend this game enough. I've got friends here, Dave and Chantel, they don't love it. They traded it. Guys, what are you doing? But I think it's an absolutely wonderful game. I hope to play it with each of them individually to try and work them around. My number one game, my favorite game that I played in 2024, The White Castle. So that is it. Again, totally different content. We'll see if anybody actually enjoys it at all. I know this video will be longer. It'll be less edited. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find something that you like. If you have questions about any books or board games that you're considering, you want some advice or thoughts on it, please let me know down below. Again, if you would like to see my most anticipated list, let me know about that as well. It's worth noting that we do have a whole bunch of facilitations that we do for management teams using board games to try and help them create their business victory conditions. That's through our 21 Tanks products. I'm very, very excited about that. We've done it for some amazing businesses with some incredible, like multi-million dollar outcomes for it. So really, really proud of the work we do with games in business. If you do want to know about that, feel free to reach out. And that's it for this one. I hope you liked it. If you do, comment and like and do whatever you have to do. And if you didn't, sorry. That's it for me. Until next one, lead loud.